Hello and welcome back to our series on what is the stock market. We have made it to the why section. Why is the stock market? Why does the market exist? And in this video, we are going to be talking about the accumulation of ownership. What does that even mean? When you go into the market and you buy a share of something, remember you are buying a small piece of that something. Okay, that could be a small piece of Disney. It could be a small piece of Nvidia. It could be a small piece, a really, really small piece of the entire S&P 500. Okay, in fact, the value of the S&P 500 currently, if you add up all the companies' market cap, if you add up what all those companies are worth, it is currently worth $50.81 trillion. So when you hear people saying, "Hey, I'm going to buy some S&P, I'm going to buy some shares of the S&P 500," they are not coming in with $50 trillion. They might be coming in with 1,000 or 5,000 or 100 or 10,000, but they're still buying a tiny piece of the S&P 500. They are accumulating ownership. All right. So when you go in and buy some of the S&P 500, you become a shareholder, and shareholders have rights and power in company decisions. Now, if you are a shareholder in a company, that's a little different than being a shareholder in a fund. Okay, the S&P 500 is a group of, sort of a basket of stocks, and there are funds that you can buy in the market that track that basket. So this is a little different in that we're talking more about accumulating a position in a single name, so something like Walmart or something. So let's use, why don't we use Ford as our example? So if we buy shares of Ford, we have rights and we have power. Now, what rights and power do we have? We have the power to vote on things. So if the powers that be that run Ford decide that they want to bring in some nut job that wants to create a five-wheeled car or something, that decision will sometimes get run by shareholders, and everyone will vote. And whichever vote gets the or whichever option gets the most votes wins. So if enough people vote for it, you could have Ford rolling out, pardon the pun, a five-wheeled car. Okay, now the the rights are proportional. If you have one share, you have significantly less rights than someone who has 1,000 shares. If someone has 50,000 shares, they have more of a say than you with your 1,000 shares. Okay, and you can accumulate over time a really large position in something like Ford. It would take a tremendous amount of money to do that, but in theory, you could covertly collect shares, build up a stash of shares until you have over half of Ford, and in theory, you could potentially take it over at that point. Now, there are rules in place that you have to disclose if you have over, I believe it's 5%, but over a certain size in these companies, so that at least everybody knows you're accumulating that position. But point being, though, when you do buy shares, you are putting yourself in a position where you can now vote on things that matter to the company, since you are now a shareholder, which is a little bit different than being a board member. If you're a board member, you have a lot of say, a lot of swing in the decisions, but you are not a shareholder. So a little bit different, just to point that out. Another benefit to accumulating shares is the power, the mighty power of the dividend. All right, a dividend is a little piece of profit that the company gives back to the shareholders. Okay, if you're a shareholder, you are entitled to those dividends. The more shares you have, the more dividends you get. Okay, so if you have one share, you get the dividend applied to that share. Now that dividend may be 10 cents on a share that is worth $30. Typically dividends are not large, but they are something. All right, and if you keep accumulating shares and keep those dividends coming, reinvesting those dividends can pay dividends. That's where that expression comes from. So if you accumulate shares, you might find yourself with a significant position paying lots of dividends, which of course can lead to financial gain in the long term. And if you're accumulating a position and the company grows, right, let's say Ford doubles or triples in size, that means your investment will also double or triple in size. Okay, so the accumulation of shares, very, very important part of wealth building and making your portfolio grow over time.